great honor to be able to introduce our next storyteller of the day. His name is Matt, and he is the founder and chairman of TAKUMI. He is a pioneering influencer marketing platform. He is a partner at Rainmaking and the co-founder of a startup bootcamp. Before he began channeling his passion for sustainability into Terra, he started his career in the Finnish Air Force and got a master's in aerospace engineering from Manchester University. Can we please give a huge round of applause for our next brilliant storyteller, and thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, everyone. Just mic is on, good. So it says founder and chairman of TAKUMI, but I'm actually here to talk about Terra, which is my investment and coaching program for young startup entrepreneurs in the climate space. So I've been an entrepreneur and investor for about 15 years now, and out of those 5, some have failed, a couple have been okay. TAKUMI is doing pretty well. But one of the most successful ones was Startupbootcamp, which I co-founded in 2010, and it was one of the first accelerator programs outside of the US. And in the last 13 years or so, it's grown to have done about 150 programs across the world in 27 different countries, 1,500 startups, and it's been a great success. Out of those 1,500 startups, only about 200 have been climate focused, though, because we've just covered everything from fintech to insurtech, what have you. And over the last couple of years, I felt a personal need to do more to help climate-focused startups. And I also felt like there was a gap in the market in terms of the investment that pre-seed startups were getting and the coaching and the support that they were getting. So I went back to the alumni from Startup Bootcamp and also spoke to other founders. And I was like trying to understand what value they got from those programs and what they did them for and what some of the issues were. And basically the hierarchy of needs that they, why a founder goes to an accelerator program is basically to get funding. Second is expand your investor network. Third is the peer-to-peer learning. And then the fourth one is basically the sort of the structured learning that you get from those programs. And then some of the issues that they had was that a lot of these programs are physical, so you have to move to a different city for 3 months and then move back again, and it's just a hassle. So effectively, if you were to sort of summarize that, it means that pre-seed founders will uproot their lives for 3 months just to get access to investors and investment. So I thought like there must be a better way to support these founders, and therefore like we launched Terra with the view of like not only being a pre-seed sort of angel investor into these startups at a very early stage, but also creating like a bespoke coaching program for each of them, so that, and it only focuses on the one thing that they said is their highest priority, which is raising money. So we set up Terra with this sort of lofty aim of helping 1,000 startups over the next 10 years to raise their seed investment round. Now, and the idea is that it's online so that we can coach people online, and therefore we can work with founders from all around the world, because I believe that like climate innovation is going to come from, well, outside of North America and Europe as much as it will come from there. So like we need to help founders flourish everywhere in the world. So that's Terra. Let me tell you a little bit about the challenge with early stage innovation, because some of you might think that there's no need for a program like Terra, that actually we're fine. So last week I met an entrepreneur called Amit, and he had developed a new membrane to be used in the electrolysis of hydrogen, which makes the whole process more efficient and better. He's not going to change the world, but he will nudge it forward a little bit. And the problem is that when you look at like sort of technology innovation in the climate space, then it's the breakthrough technologies that get all the headlines in the mainstream news, and the smaller sort of everyday innovations don't get a mention. And if you look at, you know, graphene, semiconductors, lab-grown meat, fusion reaction, you can see why those kind of get the headlines. But according to like a recent study from McKinsey, I think it was released like last week or the week before, only about 10 to 20% of all the innovation that we need to hit our net zero targets is at a mature stage, so can be applied in a scaled way. 45% is at a early market stage, and about 35 to 45% are in the concept stage. And it's the concept stage innovations which are the breakthrough technologies which seem to get all the headlines. So if you take fusion reaction, for example, there's about 25 startups around the world trying to solve fusion reaction at the moment. And I think the most advanced ones will get a commercial pilot ready by the end of the decade. And then if you think of how long it takes to build a nuclear reactor and deploy it and then do it at scale, these breakthrough technologies aren't going to really impact our 2030 goals for sure. They will hopefully impact the 2050 goals. But we can't wait for those breakthrough technologies to, solve all of our problems. And in the meantime, we have literally thousands of corporations and small businesses around the world who have all committed to net zero targets, and consumers want to reduce their own carbon footprints. And those aren't going to necessarily come from those breakthrough technologies. They're going to come from like little everyday innovations that will kind of nudge us forward towards those goals. So effectively, we need a lot more innovation around that early market stage technologies. So effectively getting them more efficient, slightly more improved, so that we can drive down the cost curve and then increase the adoption, and therefore actually like sort of incrementally get us towards our, well, especially 2030 goals, right? The problem I have is that when you look at sort of climate VC funding at the moment, a lot of the VC funds have set this like arbitrarily high, in my humble opinion, a very arbitrarily high hurdle for what great looks like in terms of carbon reduction targets for those startups before they're willing to invest in them. So you can see like some of, like on these websites where it says like, we look for companies that can address 100 million tons of carbon per year at maturity, which is great because you go 50 billion, 100 million, that doesn't sound too big. 100 million tons a year is 3,500 commercial airliners, or all the aircraft that the 5 largest airlines in the world have. That is a huge, huge number to hit. And so if that's your hurdle to make an investment into climate technology, I think you've like set the bar way too high for what it needs to be. And you kind of convoluted the concept that commercial returns and carbon reduction don't necessarily both need to be at a unicorn level, basically. So I would want to see VCs kind of reset their expectations of what great looks like when it comes to carbon reduction targets per startup, because they can still back startups that might have more moderate goals but still have large market opportunities. As I said, there's thousands of big corporates out there looking to decarbonize their supply chains, etc. And if more VCs end up being able to deploy more capital to more startups because they're lowering their hurdle, then you can still have massive overall reduction in sort of carbon in total. Because if you have 1,000 startups that each address 1,000,000 tons a year, you still get to a gigaton. So I think like we need to recalibrate what great looks like when it comes to sort of VC investment in climate tech. And I think personally, great looks like Amit. So I think we need like 1,000 small steps while we wait for those giant strides to come through from breakthrough technology as well. And I think each one of those investments can be a great investment opportunity in its own right, and it can nudge us towards net zero. And I think that these are the startups, the Amits of the world, that we need to be supporting and investing in, And that's what Terra is about. So I basically have tried to build this new platform where we're not going after the breakthrough technologies. I think Bill Gates can go after those with his larger pockets than ours. But what we can do is help with the storytelling and the narrative and the early investment and the introductions into the wider VC community for these startups that will pop up from all around the world, and where we can actually like help them get to that first step and get to the seed funding. Because once they get to the seed funding, then they're in the big open world and they have a chance to scale from there. So yeah, that's my story. Nothing to do with Takumi this time, but that's the story of Terra and how we're hopefully going to help 1,000 startups get to their sort of first step. Thank you.